We've all sat through that meeting that felt unproductive and pointless. We've all laughed at the hundreds of memes about boring, ineffective corporate meetings. There is a way to have more effective meetings that not only increase the productivity of your team, but also help to improve your effectiveness as a leader by bolstering confidence, improving communication, and increasing calibration and consistency. Our team held frequent meetings with an open agenda and a clear expectation that each member participated. My previous colleague Jessica Faulkner and I discussed the many benefits of holding consistent meetings with your team. Jessica is an accomplished leader with vast experience in supervisory and managerial roles, managing both people and programs. I had the privilege of working with her for many, many years, including as a peer on a senior manager team.
Our approach to our collaboration as a peer group was, like you said, we would meet twice a week, and that was just once with our kind of smaller team, and then another day with a few more managers, a few more leaders in that meeting. But we would still meet generally twice a week. And the other nice thing with that too that I thought was really innovative is we had this open agenda that we would just all put our ideas and things on there. And certainly, you could add in the meeting, in the midst of the meeting, there could be something you could add to it. But that way you could have you can get to your items, and everybody was kind of on an equal playing ground as far as sharing ideas and collaborating. It wasn't just this one person kind of controlling that too. Which oftentimes you find that, or that you can create that feeling with meetings, is that the facilitator or the owner of the meeting then kind of sets the agenda, and everybody else is just kind of along for the ride, which isn't always fun.
It was nice because there were some days where it was back-to-back items, and we all had things that we were bringing into the group and we wanted feedback on so that we could turn around and go work on it. But then there were other days where it was really light, and it was just a place to come together, be supportive of each other, celebrate when we had wins, but also recognize when we were having challenges. And I think just being able to come together in your peer group is so important. Similarly, like with your director, or even with the people that might be under you, I feel like those meetings also just gave us an opportunity to just be real. And, there are lots of moments where things were hard, and I feel like those meetings helped me get back on track, or recenter myself so that I could keep going, or know that okay, I'm really working on something, I'm stuck. Okay, Ian's going to help me, on this piece, and it's not going to be so daunting. And, I feel like I've got a way forward. So I feel like that was another huge benefit of, taking the time to come together on a regular basis.
And sometimes I will say, I think for leaders in general, or people who have been in any kind of leadership role, you make you're tasked with making so many decisions on your own oftentimes. And so this kind of can feel a little awkward for people to then have to bring these thoughts or get the group's kind of opinion and buy-in. But I mean, I felt like it was always so beneficial, because you would see another side, or you would at least just have somebody else kind of share, yeah, that sounds right, you should be doing it.
You're on the right track, like you're not completely gone off the rails.
So having that support system there was good. And I will say too, I mean, I think for whatever reason, we were always in the midst of making decisions. There was always some big, huge change we were implementing, large projects, just a lot going on as well. And so there was plenty to discuss and plenty to decide. But having that group and kind of forcing yourself to put out your ideas and get that immediate feedback from your peers and either get that buy-in or get a challenge to that, I think it was so beneficial, at least for me. And I felt like it helped move things along so smoothly and so well. and we were able to develop such a better plan of action. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for myself, I'm someone who I just like to take action, and you give me a task, like I'm going to turn around and start working on it, probably before I even understand like the why. But these meetings, they were just, they gave me the space to slow down, to really prepare my own thoughts about what I thought was best before, moving forward on something. And like you said, just having the space to kind of weigh all the options, because we did make so many decisions, and I felt like there were so many times where it felt like decision fatigue, and we'd get to the end of the day and we'd just be like, whatever. And like, I'm so tired from making all these decisions. And so I think that opportunity to come together was also, when it felt like you were overwhelmed or had decision fatigue, you could just throw it on the agenda and be like, we're just going to look at this on Thursday. Like, it can wait a few days. I need some sound advice on what to do next. And it's not all on me to, make this heavy decision. And we'll just talk it out, and then I'll feel a lot better about it.
Again, having this group that you meet with routinely is you do have different approaches, different styles, different strengths and all of that. And so then you can really value each other and value each other. You start to value each other's opinion, and you start to see these other sides and perspectives and all of that too. And so, certainly I would have times where because I would hear y'all and just, we got to dive in, instead of me sitting there questioning things and wanting to talk about, bigger purpose. It would just be, okay, no, we need to get moving on this. We don't, we have zero time.
Yeah. And for someone like me who tends to be the opposite, I just want to get going, and I'm very motivated by a timeline and being able to try and implement things. You were always so helpful because, you helped me stop and contextualize, what we're doing. Why are we doing this? Like, what are the positives? What are the negatives? Like, ultimately, like, where are we going? And I feel like, for me, keeping that vision in the forefront of whatever it is that I'm working on helps me be more thorough in my process. And I think that's another great thing that I've learned being a part of this manager group is we all have unique strengths. We all have unique styles. We're all going to bring a different perspective. But like you said, we can look at each other's strengths and see how your strength can help me, when I'm stuck, how my strength can help you, when you're, up against something that, is uncomfortable. So I agree that I feel like in that setting, we really got to know each other's strengths, and we're able to really rely on each other and bring those strengths into play when we needed them.
That allowed me then to really see the unique differences in my peers and value that I need that. Like, I don't ever want to be on a team where if it's a team of just a bunch of people who are like me, I would be miserable, or it wouldn't. I know it would not be successful the way it should be, and I think that's really where we found a great deal of our success, with just having those differences and being able to kind of find our own lanes and our own grooves and work together so well. So I've always been a huge proponent of strength-based leadership, but being able to see it in that capacity and action, and just I think we did all value each other's unique strengths, and it was great. It was outstanding.
I think another great thing about having these opportunities to, connect as peers and as fellow managers is when we did have to go and present to, our senior directors or our vice president or some stakeholders that, we weren't used to being in front of. I feel like these settings, these meetings, gave me the confidence and allowed me to have like a preview before having to go and present to, someone, a little bit higher than us, or go speak to a different group that I maybe wasn't as familiar with, but they were asking me to come in and speak, as an authority on whatever subject or whatever project we were working on. So I think that was another huge benefit of having these types of meetings and having this type of group, so that you don't have to face those parts of your career or your role that you don't necessarily do all that often. But when you have to go into it, I feel like that kind of, again, it gave us an opportunity to do a preview or work out all the kinks before we had to go and do the big presentation, which always made me feel much more at ease. And also being able to know what questions to anticipate from our staff, or questions that the stakeholders would ask of us, so that we weren't completely thrown off guard. It was an opportunity for us to pose those questions to each other and kind of prepare each other in a way. So I feel like that was another thing that I really benefited from.
The great thing about us meeting so routinely and discussing where we are and sharing what each other is doing and what we're working on is we had such a much more clearer understanding of the work that we were doing as a team. Even if each individual had their own thing that they were doing, I knew essentially what you were kind of working on, or what our other peers were working on. I've shared what I've been working on, so that when we were in those situations where we did have to speak to our work as a team, we were all capable of doing that in some regard. And the great thing is that, like you said, we got to kind of discuss things, and I felt like we really came together as a unified front when we did present, whether it be to the staff who reported to us, or staff above us that we reported to in some capacity. So I mean, we were just it felt collectively like we had a really strong kind of aware team of our work, which I hadn't felt before, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a great point. I enjoyed that as well.
There would be times when I felt really passionate about a certain direction I was going in, and I would present it, and maybe wasn't met with as much enthusiasm that I had for it, or lots of questions were posed that I hadn't thought about before, or that made me felt like, oh, maybe this isn't the right path forward. But I think what I really learned as well, kind of being in this space, because we want it to be productive, we want it to be collaborative, I think the goal of all of us was to help each other, move forward and feel good about the directions we were moving in. But I think it's really important in how you initially respond, to your peers that are sharing a new idea or a new project or a new initiative. I think there's an easy way to just launch right into, this is not going to work, maybe being critical and maybe pointing out all the things that are wrong with the state of how things are at the moment. But I think what I tried to do and what I learned from this group is, leading with, okay, this sounds really great. Like, let's talk about all the things, like all the hard work that you've already put into this, and like this, let's recognize that, and then let's go a little deeper and let's talk about like how we can make it even better. And I think it's all about how you want to help your peer be successful. And I think some folks, again, focus on the critical aspects or all the reasons why it won't work. And sometimes that's helpful because we don't see our own blind spots sometimes. But I also think there's a way of inviting others into the conversation with you, and as a member of that conversation, being able to, be challenging, but also being respectful, and being motivating, but also acknowledging like the work that's been done already. So I think that's so important. And these type of groups, or the structure of our team, was to maintain that balance.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's an excellent point that I hadn't really thought of, but the act of getting together so often and talking about so many different things and ideas and what we're working on forces you to practice that collaborative, supportive communication that leaders should be presenting all the time, right? And I feel like, yeah, that was, I mean, again, it kind of goes with that unified front that we were all then practicing this. And then when we would go into meetings with the supervisors group, or a frontline, the whole center, whatever it may be, we could utilize that same kind of conversation and that same communication, the same way of oh, that's a great question, that's a great idea, thank you so much for sharing that. I can hear your your concerns with this question, or I understand that you are aware of the challenges for the constituent, or you're really, I can clearly hear that you're thinking about our constituents, whatever it may be. That communication that is so important to leadership was being practiced every day by us. We were just having to talk to each other that way. We had to figure that out. I mean, I will say we could be a bit more candid and honest, and maybe even use the occasional frustrated word or what have you. But we understood each other, and it made it enjoyable.
Yeah, and I mean, I think all that comes with just building rapport with one another and building those relationships over time. But I also think, it really helped me in the conversations that I would have with my supervisors. And, if they were coming to me with a really great idea, or or something that their staff had brought to them, finding a way to encourage and support it, but also like being realistic and saying, okay, I like this idea, and I would love for them to work on X, Y, and Z, and then we can see, where we can go from there. And I think, again, just that practice of being collaborative and being open, and trying to inspire, trying to motivate, while also, being realistic and being mindful of, budget, time constraints, resources. And, it's really, it's a big puzzle having to put all those things together. But I think having those interactions on a weekly basis that we did, I felt like it carried into my other meetings with my other staff, or my other supervisors, and trying to have that same open-mindedness, or what can I do to help you, in what you need for this task or project, or what it is that you're wanting to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's great point. It was super beneficial.